We are getting
Testing, testing, 1, 2, check. Test 1, 2, check. Hello, my name is Jordan Possig, and welcome to Synth-Reviews. Today I will be talking about a virtual synthesizer known as Pigments. Now, what is Pigments? Pigments is made by Arturia. It's a virtual synthesizer, and it is capable of 4 engines. There's an analog, wavetable, harmonic, and a sampler. But today we'll just be talking about the sampler today. You can do 2 engines, and as well you have just standard filters, you have the standard envelopes, you have standard LFOs, also effects and sequencer. But with the sample, it's interesting, to say the least. Now, what is a sampler? Now, a sampler basically is, as you can see on here, it is a piece of audio waveform that is recorded, whether it be someone's voice, an instrument, and basically reconstructed with RAM, basically written with RAM, to the point where you can play it chronologically on a keyboard. Now, with that being said, the samplers is not exactly new, but however, just even taking a basic audio sample, this is just 2 patches here, a sample of a voice, a sample of harmonics with a sine wave. But even with this simple patch, this is what can be done. And with just that sample, it is quite capable. However, That's not the only thing it can do. In the modern era, we have something called an editing window, which with this editing window, one thing I can do is first off cut the tail, so therefore I don't have so much dead space, reverse the playback, so therefore it plays in reverse, to give something a little bit more unnatural that you can't get with a standard recording, and as well loop it. So therefore I can hold it, and it keeps continually looping. So therefore you can hold chords, you can hold notes, and it continually holds. However, that is not the only thing that it can do. That with with this, there's this window which is called a shape mode. And the shape mode, if you don't know chords, or you don't really know how to play chords, or if you want to just go crazy with one finger jamming, you can basically hit a chord, and basically you can activate your voices, what chord you want, and basically you can one finger jam it. Now we can activate it on both samples actually. But you can do two fingers, let's say like this. And you can basically play something that is more than your fingers, pretty much. And so, with as well additional sample layering and extra manipulation of the waveform. Now, with that being said, that is not the coolest thing about this thing. The coolest thing is granular synthesis, or granular sample, sorry. But first, I want to take a moment to thank today's sponsor, which is Guitar Center. Guitar Center is a music store brand that has stores throughout the country that if you want to grab any type of music gear, whether it be guitars, keyboards, even sound gear that they sell, pro line, prosumer line, and even if you're just starting out, whether it be you are going in gigs, whether it be you're in a recording studio, or you just want to jam out with friends, Guitar Center is the place to go. You can go to guitarcenter.com and find the nearest store near you. Now back to what I was mentioning about granular. I mean, sampling in itself is not something new. It has been around since the 1970s from a company called Fairlight. But to not get into that, with modern sampling, that there's a lot more way of manipulating a waveform, which leads me into granular, which if I go back here into the main tab and I hit granular here, and I turn this on, I can turn on granular. Now let's just go to a patch that's a little more simpler, just like this, just like a marimba. Right, nothing special. But if I hit granular, you see out here this is start. There's a playhead that basically you can pick where the playhead starts. And basically what granular does, to explain, is that it basically adds smaller playheads that play in delay time. Basically, it plays one after the other, and it continually loops the playing heads after where I set that, the big playing head. For example, if you just see on the screen here with the marimba, I can start it just right at the front here, and I press a note. There's those smaller white lines that basically replay the sample, but at a faster and more smaller delayed rate. But to really give it a lot of effect, to add two granulars would be something that would be honestly quite great. I said low cut. And I can even add granular on the lo-fi cut. Let's see. And basically where you can basically manipulate the sample to basically play at your whim, basically, with granular, and make it sound unnatural that you couldn't do with a standard recording or even a filter. But even then, I only really touched a few buttons and pretty much I get a pretty maxed out sample. Now, what are my thoughts on this? I think Pigments, honestly, is a fantastic software because also Pigments doesn't only just do sampling, it also does your standard analog, wavetable, and something called a harmonics, but we'll not get into that today. But with the sampler just by itself, I think it is quite a piece of machinery. Yeah, I think it's quite a piece. It really can give so much tampering with waveform. You can edit it so much, and it's not really that expensive of software. It's only, I think, $200. The downside, of course, is that it is you need a keyboard, interface, and a computer. But with that being said, I think it's a pretty good steal for a virtual synthesizer that does granular, because there's not too many samplers that can do granular sampling. And so, but with the granular and as well all the effects, sequencers, honestly speaking, for $200, it's quite a steal. So that would be my thoughts on it. And funny enough that this is the sampler that I started on when I started doing synthesizer production. So with that also being said, that it's quite also easy to learn what's going on because everything is very visual in the program. So I can tell where everything's routed. It's very hands-on approach. But otherwise, yes, that's what I think about Pigments. This will be my last broadcast for Synth Reviews, but I thank you for tuning in to Synth Reviews with me. And this is Jordan Possig, signing off.
Hello, I am Cameron, and this is Paperworks. Today, instead of showing you how to do one simple project, I will instead be showing you how to do 3 projects. Now, first, we'll be starting with something very simple. A very simple, quick, and easy to do paper star decoration. Cute little thing. My personal favorite, frankly. Then, we'll move on to an origami flower. Well, not origami, this is just regular paper. And lastly, we'll move on to a paper pumpkin. Now, I ran out of orange paper, so I was going to make this a paper squash. But as it turns out, green's not a great option either, so now it's going to be a paper peach. But before we do any of that, I'd like to thank today's sponsor. Thank you again to Dr. Pepper for sponsoring today's segment. Now, let's start with our first mini craft, a simple paper star. Now, in order to do this one, we're going to need a simple strip of paper. You can get this from basically any kind of paper, but the paper I used was a bit more of a large paper. Now, the fun thing about this project is that you can use any kind of paper as long as you have a long enough strip. However, you will want a scissors, just in case it gets a little too long. Now, the process is fairly simple. We're going to start by making essentially a shoelace with the paper. Fold in and through. Make sure you have a long and short end. Oh, whoops. I'll try that again quick. Now just pull it tight and pull tight and press the creases. Now fold this end over, fold the short end over. Make sure to cut so that it is underneath the star, or the pentagon. Now, the next step is to fold the long strip over. Continue to do so until the pentagon is completely covered. Then, you can shorten the strip a little bit and stuff it in underneath the other. Now that you have your pentagon, simply pinch down on each point of the pentagon. This last part's a little tricky, so you might need to do some trial and error. And, if done right, you have a completed star. Now, this can be done as many times with as many little strips of paper you like. Use any kinds of colored papers, draw on some little extra decorations. The fun part about this decoration is its versatility. You can make it as big or as small as you want depending on how much paper you have. You also might want to use some tape to hold it down, just in case. Next, we'll be moving on to our paper craft flower. Now, I won't be using one with 2 layers like this one. You will want tape and scissors. As well as at least 3 different pieces of paper. First, take your petals, or the color that you want your petals to be, fold along the side, or the burger fold. I think that's what it was called. Now for this one, I'm going to be going with 8 petals. So I'm going to fold that in half again. Then I'm going to fold it one more time. Now, simply cut out your shape. Whatever shape you want your petals to be will work. In this case, I'll be going with a much simpler leaf shape. Now you have 8 petals. Arrange them however you like. In this case, I've arranged them simply as, well, 8 pieces. Now you'll want the center of your flower. In this case, I'll be using black. So once again, fold and cut. Make sure that the circle you cut out is a little larger than the spot in the center of your petals. Otherwise, your flower is going to look a little odd. Now this is where the tape comes in. Take 8 pieces of tape, or at least 1 piece of tape for each of your petals. Like so. And now simply arrange them on the back. Whoop. Now you're going to want to make sure that you keep holding on the tape, otherwise it might come loose. But that's not a problem. Sometimes that just happens. Whoa. Now we have our 7 petals. Oh. Looks like I forgot a petal, but that's fine. Now you're going to want to take the back of this flower, take another piece of tape, and round it out like this. Now that it sticks on both sides. Place it on the back of your center. Then place your other center on the back. Now lastly, we're going to add some leaves on the back. I'll be using 4 simple leaves this time, so once again, like the petals, fold, fold again, and cut. Now, you can add decorations with some pens or markers to your flower, but I won't be doing that. Now, if you want to get really creative and avoid letting any of your tape be seen, you can actually tape the leaves underneath, your center. Like so. This also has the added benefit of keeping your petals intact. Place on the center, and now you have a simple flower. Now for our last craft, we'll be moving on to a paper pumpkin slash squash slash peach in this case. Now you'll want some more paper strips. Make sure they're evenly cut and have a hole punched in the top. Make sure to align the paper straps evenly. And then tape them together. Like so. Now, you can do this with as many straps of paper as you want. The larger it is, you're going to want more straps, as well as larger and thicker straps. So just keep that in mind when you make your initial straps of paper. You're also going to want them to be as even as possible, because when you add in the top, it's going to look a little weird if you don't have them even. So I'm going to be using 8 straps, like so. So now I'm going to make the stem. In this case, I'll be using a brown strip of paper with the edge cut off. So I'm going to fold like so. You're going to want a point at the bottom. And cut however you see fit. And fold in. Oh. Looks like I'm going to need a bit of tape. Place it inside, and feel free to cut the tape off when you're done. Now, for the last step, simply take your stem and place each strip underneath. Oh boy, all right. All right, so for the sake of the demonstration, I'll just be using some tape. A little blasphemous, I know, but for the sake of time, we're going to cheat a little bit. You're going to want to make sure you have the holes lined up when you're taping them together. And now, simply insert your stem into the top. And now, you have a simple paper fruit. Now, with that, you have everything. This has been my last episode of Paperworks, and I would like to thank you all for watching.
Hello, welcome back to Paint 30 for the final installment of the 3 episodes. Today I'm going to be working on a new piece. It's going to be a small mushroom on a small piece of wood. So I have paints ready, some paint brushes, and I also have some water. Definitely not my normal setup, but for lack of time, I'm just going to do it this way. And I'm going to first start with the background. So I have gesso down on here, and I don't want to color all of this. I want to keep the natural wood. So I'm going to start with just painting a background. I think I'm just going to do something a little more neutral. And then once I have the background painted, I can do the outline of the mushroom and then start filling it in. You can use runnier paint, you can have your paint thicker depending on what you're going for, but basically you're just going to keep layering it up until you get the desired effect that you're looking for. Oops, I didn't want to do that. That's alright. It'll still work. So I'm going to do darker edges with it lighter on the inside, and then once this dries, I'll do the outline of the mushroom and then start filling that in with colors. Typically when you paint, you want to start with a larger brush so that you can get more saturation for the color. And then once you get that down, you can start doing smaller brushes so that you can get finer details. And then eventually you go down to a very small brush just to define everything that you want to look a little bit sharper. Alright, it's still a little wet. This is what I have so far. Doesn't look like much, it's just the background. I'll have to layer it a couple more times, but I think just for lack of time, I will let that dry for a second and then start the mushroom outline. Excuse me. So to do this, I'm going to use a lighter color so that it pops out more. And you can pretty much do any shape of mushroom that you want. I mean, it's endless. All right, well, I'm gonna let that dry for a second, and then now a word from our sponsors. We're gonna learn about some easels. All right, thank you to our sponsors. And now back to painting. All right, so I'm gonna continue the mushroom. It's still a little wet, so it's kind of hard to work with right now. So I'm actually gonna go back to the background. always a good idea to take a step back and look at what you've done, and then you can kind of continue and see it from a different perspective or take photos. It just looks different on a screen versus in person at times. All right, well, this is what I have so far. It's not done, but it's a start. And thank you for watching Paint 30.
Hey there, I'm Logan, and I'm your host for Up to Mazda Speed. On the last episode, I mentioned that we'd be taking a jump to Mazda Speed's golden years, the 2000s. Let's take a trip down memory lane to explore the iconic Mazda Speed Protege, or Protege, and the Mazda Speed Miata. Let's kick things off with the Mazda Speed Protege, a turbocharged beast that was made only in 2003. With its 2.0-liter engine churning out 170 horsepower, it was a force to be reckoned with on the streets. The Mazda Speed Protege also boasted a sport-tuned suspension, aggressive body kit, and a stylish set of 17-inch wheels that turned heads wherever it went. But wait, there's more. The Mazda Speed Protege wasn't just a looker, it was also a performer. Thanks to its quick shifting 5-speed manual transmission and responsive handling, this car was a blast to drive whether you were tearing up the track or cruising through the city streets. Now let's shift gears to the Mazda Speed Miata, a special version of the car that was made from 2004 to 2005. The Mazda Speed Miata was a turbocharged version of the Roadster that captured the hearts of driving enthusiasts everywhere. With its 1.8-liter engine pumping out 178 horsepower, the Mazda Speed Miata delivered an exhilarating driving experience that left a smile on your face every time you hit the accelerator. What set the Mazda Speed Miata apart from its standard counterpart were its upgraded brakes, limited slip differential, and sport-tuned suspension. These enhancements transformed the already agile Miata into a corner-carving machine that begged to be pushed to its limits. And let's not forget about that turbocharged goodness under the hood. The Mazda Speed Miata's turbocharged engine delivered a punchy power band that kept you glued to your seat as you raced down the open road, top down, and wind in your hair.
Looking
The
for
Mazda
a new
Speed
set of
Protege
wheels.
and the Mazda Speed Miata are two turbocharged icons that left a lasting
Looking for a
impact
new set
on
of
the automotive world. However, we all know that Mazda Speed doesn't stop there. But first, let's hear a word from today's sponsor, Fitment Industries.
Looking for a new set of wheels for your ride? Fitment Industries has got you covered. Fitment Industries makes it easy to shop for wheels. All you have to do is go to fitmentindustries.com. Put in your model, make, and what tire setup you will have. I'll use my 2008 Mazda Speed 3 as an example. Let's see what is available. Fitment Industries not only sells wheels, but suspension parts and other goodies. But let's focus on wheels for now. As you can see, there's a huge selection of wheels for my car. About 28,117 to be exact. You can use filters to narrow down your desired wheel and take a look at them. I like the look of Graham lights, so let's put that in the filter and see my selection. Let's take a look at these wheels. And what do we have here? A red Mazda Speed 3 with these wheels. Nice. You can also view other information about the wheel below, as well as being able to see what other colors are available. As you can see, I found a nice set of wheels for my Mazda Speed 3 easily, and so can you too. Visit fitmentindustries.com to find your dream setup.
Thank you, Fitment Industries, for sponsoring today's episode of Up to Mazda Speed. Now, it's about time we talk about the Mazda Speed 3 and the Mazda Speed 6. Let's kick things off with the Mazda Speed 3. the hot hatch that packed a punch from 2007 to 2013. It quickly became a favorite among enthusiasts with its turbocharged 2.3-liter engine under the hood. This pocket rocket delivered a whopping 263 horsepower and 280 pounds of torque. But wait, the Mazda Speed 6 is no slouch either. As a sportier sibling to the Mazda 6 sedan, the Mazda Speed 6 brought a new level of performance to the table. It was made from 2006 to 2007. It boasted a turbocharged 2.3-liter, just like the Mazda Speed 3, and churned out about 274 horsepower and 280 pounds of torque. With its all-wheel drive, it hugged corners like a pro. Now, let's talk about some of the features that set these Mazda Speed models apart from the competition. Both the Mazda Speed 3 and the Mazda Speed 6 were equipped with beefed-up suspension systems, sport-tuned exhausts, and aggressive body kits that screamed performance. Whether you're tearing up the track or taking on winding mountain roads, the Mazda Speed 3 and the Mazda Speed 6 are sure to get your heart racing. So there you have it, a brief but exhilarating journey through the history of the Mazda Speed 3 and Mazda Speed 6. However, there is one last and iconic car I want to talk about. Now, this car isn't from the 2000s, but is one of the most popular cars that Mazda has ever made, and that would be the third generation Mazda RX-7, or the FD. There's a special version called the Mazda RX-7 A-Spec. It was called the A-Spec because it featured tuning items, in quotes, intended for public use on roads, aka a touring kit as they called it. This version was first offered in 1996. The most notable difference of the A-Spec is that it is meant to resemble a racing machine, and it could be outfitted with a variety of performance parts. In 1997, it was the 15th anniversary of Mazda Speed, and a different version of the kit called the Aero Parts Type 15 was marketed and it emphasized aero parts. The A-Spec allowed customers to choose from a variety of parts to meet their budget. Otherwise, the specifications for the car pretty much stayed about the same, with it being powered by the twin-turbo rotary 13B REW engine, making about 265 horsepower at the time. It featured a 5-speed transmission, and it only weighed 2,690 pounds. When it comes to performance and eye-catching looks, the Mazda RX-7 A-Spec definitely has it. Okay. And personally, I would like to own one day because it's very popular in the anime Initial D, and it's been in a bunch of other shows, but it's just something that enthusiasts want to. But as you can see, Mazda has had a huge influence towards car enthusiasts, even if it doesn't necessarily exist today, because they stopped that with the Mazda 3 in 2013, and they don't use the Mazda Speed brand name anymore. But don't worry, Mazda hasn't completely given up in their sports division with their Spirit Racing concept cars, and plus they still make the Mazda Miata, and they also have a racing series cup that I didn't really mention, which is the MX-5 Miata Cup race, which is pretty much this drive with all Miatas. And I hope you enjoyed my brief explanation of Mazda Speed's golden years, plus the added bonus of the history of the RX-7 A-Spec. Also, this is the final episode of Up to Mazda Speed. So if this is your first time watching, feel free to watch the previous 2 episodes of Up to Mazda Speed, and I cover I start off with the past, and then I start off with the second episode, I'd go to the future, and then right now it's kind of like the past, but more present. And yeah, this is your host, Logan, and I hope you love Mazda as much as I do. So thanks for staying up to speed with me. Goodbye.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to News Traveler. My name is Shane Fitzsimmons. If you've been following along up to this point, you've joined us as we've engaged with folks who live in Des Moines and Dubuque, Iowa. As we continue our journey to Eagle Pass, Texas, and the U.S.-Mexico border, our next stop will be Jefferson City, Missouri. I was able to make contact with a handful of residents there, many of which were just wrapping up a Freedom Caucus rally inside the Capitol building. Let's tune in and hear what they have to say. Okay, I'm on the corner of Monroe and East High Street here in Jefferson City, Missouri. I haven't talked to anybody yet, so just kind of getting lay of the land. There's some foot traffic here, so we'll see if we can find anybody that wants to talk to us. Would you mind sharing your opinions and what your current understanding is?
Current understanding is the governor of Texas is securing the border on their own because the federal government is not doing that.
Whoever controls our federal government wants open borders.
We have open borders. Who knows who's coming in?
Well, the current understanding that I have is that we have made a mockery out of trying to protect our border. Basically, we haven't.
But I cannot understand why this is not an invasion, quite honestly.
Do you have concerns over who or what's coming over the border?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, there are known terrorists coming over the border.
Coyotes that traffic them, the rapes, including of young children.
For innocent women and children being abused would be a good way of putting it.
The human trafficking thing that's involved with this, it's sad. It's a horrible deal.
I saw an article the other day that indicated there were thousands upon thousands of people that had come across.
Who knows what we're letting in?
It's a horrible deal.
As well as the drug trade and all of our people in America, kids are dying from overdoses.
I don't understand why Biden is wanting to sue Texas to keep this from happening. The razor wire and all that, why is it okay for it to be around the Capitol building, but not at the border? Good wire, bad wire? Come on now.
But I am grateful to see the states rallying behind Texas.
Delighted to have the National Guard calling out and all the other states helping.
I think if it's necessary, we could send our National Guard. I'm hoping that the support of the governors across the United States will be enough to back the administration off.
Well, I hope that the Biden administration takes a hint and says, "Hey, okay, this is silly. It's time to back off on this."
And what are we supposed to do? Just, come on in, Wrong. That's just so wrong.
We have a responsibility in our country for the safety of our own people. The law provides asylum for those who are actually seeking asylum in the right way. And if they abide by the law, we'll give them that.
Or you protect your border, people can come to our country if they do it legally.
I'm all for immigration, but if it's done right.
Yeah, I would like to see people come into this country the right way.
People need a safe path here.
And if you want to talk to somebody who's really hacked off about what's going on, you need to find those guys. The guys that came and did it the right way, did it the hard way. And you talk about people that appreciate being Americans, those are the people that appreciate being Americans.
It's important to note that the event inside the Capitol likely drew people with similar beliefs. I can't say for sure that their opinions represent the average Missourian, but the sentiment of those I spoke with that day certainly support the policies enacted by Governor Abbott. Since the time of my visit, Missouri Governor Mike Parsons has pledged 200 National Guard members and 22 state police officers to assist Texas. Likewise, Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds has stated she will deploy members of her National Guard, as has Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt. In the next episode of News Traveler, we will travel to Norma, Oklahoma, home of Oklahoma State University. The opinions of those people I spoke to were split right down the middle. This will be the last episode of News Traveler on this channel, but you can follow me on my own channel at Prime Imageworks. Let's take a sneak peek at next week's episode and see what it has in store.
Downtown Norman, Oklahoma is not very busy. There's not a lot of foot traffic here. But see what we can find.
Personally, I support Texas.
You think the border is too open?
I think the border is way too open.
I try to see issues from both perspectives because I see the domestic and international context of everything.
Blow up something all over the friggin' country. That's what I think is going to happen. And I'm no seer, so I don't know. But that's what I'm afraid of. They've all got a mission when they're coming in here. Not all of them, but there's a select group in there that has got a mission that they're going to do.
I'd like to thank this week's sponsor, Milo's Iced Tea. Why do we like it? Because it's good. That's all the time we have for today. Thanks for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you next time.